You can buy today are so soft, one fish will tear them in half. And some of the baits you guys aren't probably familiar with because they're down south, like Louisiana and Texas and Alabama and whatnot. The baits down there were so hard because the fish they're catching down there are called speckled trout or weak fish, if you've heard of that, and they're catching redfish. Well, those fish have a tendency to really tear the baits up too. So they made their baits so tough down there that they would last. Well, you take those baits and you put them in a swimming pool and you swim them, and you notice they don't swim. They just go through the water like a cigar. And I was thinking, man, there must be a way to do this where we can get a bait that'll swim, and then, but be durable like those baits. So what I did was contacted the manufacturer of this plastic, and I said, I need a plastic that is compounded to be right between the soft plastic that we use for worms, or the swim baits that you're used to, those hand-poured swim baits. I said, I need something that's in between that plastic and then that hard plastic that they're using that's so durable. So they compounded this what we call minnow plastic, and it's right in between those two hardnesses. So now this bait, and what I was trying to do is get a bait that, those hard baits I was telling you about, they will, if you drop them in a swimming pool on a fishing line, they will helicopter like this on the fall, okay? Because they're so rigid that the thing can't do anything except helicopter. Well, that's not a natural fall. If you were to kill a shad and let it die, it's probably going to do this all the way to the bottom. It's not going to sit there and do that all the way down the bottom. So I thought, well, we need to get something that's in between. This bait here, when you put a half-ounce sinker on this and threw it into a pool, even if it wasn't attached to a fishing line, this would swim all the way to the bottom. And that's why I did it this way. I don't know if you've ever experienced this with swim baits, but if you fish hard swim baits and you let them sink, you cast your line out there and let it sink, and then you wind it in, you get, after about a half of an hour of fishing, your line's twisting all up. That's what's doing it, is the spin as it spins to the bottom of the lake, or the ocean for that matter. So that's really important to eliminate. A lot of these people were saying, why is my line getting all twisted up? Well, the baits were too hard. The baits were too soft, then they were just ripping, or you had to fish them very slow in order to get them to swim. Because if you pull them fast, the wiggle's so tight on the tail it doesn't do any vibration. We were talking a minute ago about fish going to see the bait, or smell the bait, or feel the bait. And that's what they do through the sides of their body, what we call the lateral lines. They can feel vibration in the water. I really worked hard to get these baits to actually thump while they're swimming. This is a 3-inch flurry that's on the end of this thing. This bait on a 1/4 ounce or a 3/8 ounce head will swim perfectly, and it's got the same plastic that's in the 4-inch bait. This bait here is by far my #1 selling bait through my whole company. I sell, these are in, I don't know, hundreds of Walmarts and Academy Sports down in the south. They're all over from North Carolina, Florida, all over the south coast. They're everywhere down there. This thing that's on the top here, incidentally, this is called a high spin. I didn't invent this one. I just kind of tried to make it a little better than what I could find without making the cost high. These sell for like, I think, $2.99 a pack of 2. And what you can do with this thing is you can basically hang anything you want on the end, which is what you see on the bottom there. This is just a basic lead head with a flurry on it. And what you do is you tie this end to your line, and with this little clip right here, you can put on or take off anything you want to put on the bottom here. So you keep this thing tied on. If you had a few of these things rigged, you could change colors in just a matter of seconds without retying. So this is a really neat product. There used to be a product, some of you guys remember, called the Beetle Spin. You ever heard of that?
Spin.
Well, no, Beetle Spin. It was made, I don't even know who made it. Beetle Spins were old before even I was born. They've been around forever, but it used to be a really thin wire and a really small little thing they were used for crappie and bluegill. But this is basically a big brother of that, and it's made out of a very heavy, you remember it?
Yes.
Yeah, real heavy wire. This is a .51 gauge wire of stainless steel, and it's real strong. You can, and it's made so that you can catch all these calicos and mackerels and stuff, whatever. It isn't going to hurt the bait. I've seen 50-pound redfish caught on this thing and it doesn't bend it. So it's a real strong bait, real strong thing. So that's that little guy. want to put that there, so whoever wins that will get that little flurry in there too. And then one of my other things, now this is really probably mostly a bass thing. This is probably one of the inventions I'm probably most proud of, and I know you've never seen it. This is called a wedge shot. You guys all heard of drop shotting?
Yeah.
Well, this is a product that I actually invented this thing 12 years ago. I've been trying to get it patented for the last 2 years. I've spent, I don't even want to tell you how many thousands of dollars on it. A lot of money. The way this thing works is, anyone who's ever drop shotted before knows that typically a drop shot, the way it works is, or this is for those of you who don't know what a drop shot is. A drop shot is at the bottom, okay? So what we do is we tie a Palomar hook, a Palomar knot, and a hook right here. Who knows what a Lucky Joe is? Remember that little Lucky Joe? Okay. Basically that was a drop shot. You had 4 little tiny flies hanging down a line, and then at the bottom we tied a weight. And we dropped them off the pier, and we would, do like that. Today, what do they call them? Sabikis. Yeah, well, it was a Lucky Joe when I was Joe's age. I mean, I caught more surf perch on that thing than...
Red and yellow?
Red and yellow. Yeah, yarn. Well, so what you do is you tie the little hook right here with the hook up, and then at the bottom, anything from a few inches to a couple feet, you tie a weight. Well, somebody came up with the idea that what they did was they took the little lead weight, and then they pinched a wire shaped like that, and you stick your fishing line through the wire and pull it up and wedge it into the little V at the top. Well, when wire meets fishing line, it cuts. It just cuts like that. And those little weights, can cost anywhere from 50 cents to $1.50 each. Well, when you cast it out there and it sinks to the bottom, and then you snag a little bush or a little something and you pull on it, it cuts your line. And people say, well, look, you didn't lose your Gamakatsu hook. Wow, what a bonus. Yeah, but I just lost the fishing weight that cost more than that. But that's how they marketed it, because that was the only thing. So I'm like, there has to be a better way to do this. So this is the idea I came up with, which is basically a bullet weight with a hole in the middle. So you take the line and you stick it down the hole, out the bottom, and then you come back up the side, and then you go under that O-ring a couple, 2, 3 times. And when you do that, and then pull it and wedge it tight, now when you pull here, you're pulling against the metal here that's going down, and the whole tension, or I should say the stress that you're putting on that line is dispersed between the top and all the way around the bottom. You can pull on that fishing line, and you'll get almost 100% of the strength of the line. So if you're fishing 6-pound test, or 8-pound test, or 10-pound test, that's how strong it is. And this weight is not made of lead. It's made of a metal that's a compound between, or I should say an alloy between tin and bismuth. So it has a weight that's not as heavy as lead, but it's also non-toxic. I did this because in California, making lead weights is just not worth the hassle. The government's like, I don't know, everybody's demonized lead. I don't think lead's as bad as people want it to be, but that's politicized now, so we won't get into that. But that's how this works. And for some reason, the guys in Washington, D.C. don't understand, or don't seem to think that this is unique. You show it to any fisherman in the world, and they'll say, I've never seen anything like it. To me, that's patentable. Right? I mean, people can patent putting salt in plastic, and this patent was good for 20 years. You used to have to pay royalties to Gene LaRue company in order to put salt in your worms. Now, people just did it, but legally they could never have done that without paying royalties. I mean, if salt is patentable, then why in the world is this thing not patentable? But anyway, the lawyer that I've been working with, we've got it down to where we're just about saying, okay, as long as it looks exactly like this, can we have it? It's crazy. Because for some reason, he just doesn't recognize the uniqueness of this. He's like, well, it's just an O-ring. What's the big deal? I'm like, no, it's the whole utility of the way the thing works. But that's the drop shot. I only make these in 3 weights at this particular time. I make them in 3/16, 1/4 ounce, and 3/8. So 3/8, you guys know, you could fish that in the bay, but that isn't going to go any deeper than that. Another thing, if you're not familiar with what's been happening in metals, being a jeweler, I've seen gold in the last few years go from $300 to $400 an ounce up to $1,900, whereas today it's at $1,580. Well, the same thing happened to tin and bismuth, not to that degree, but this metal went from $8 a pound to $19 a pound. Well, when you're selling a quarter ounce of that metal, that's a lot of increase. So a lot of this stuff is just a labor of love, just like hot sauce. When I made that, the amount of money that I spent making that product, if I was going to do that from a realistic point of view, I mean, I'd make my money back now, but you know, I spent a lot of money, and luckily back in those days I had 5 employees, so I had 2 full-time jewelers sitting there. I could just play all day long. Then when a customer came in, I'd run out to the front, you know, dust off the glitter and stuff that was on the shirt, and then be a jeweler again. But that's how I got to play with all these things. But the wedge shot, it's really my joy. I think this is the coolest thing in the world. And if you've ever drop shot it and you got a chance to use one, I think you'd agree to get the chance. So if you guys are like the ones that win these, or maybe if you don't win them or you want to fish with them, you guys can.
How much do they sell for now? You haven't got it in the stores yet?
I gave some to Fisherman's Hardware, which you guys are familiar with in Huntington Beach. And I gave them a few packs and said, hey, play with these. And then Jim said to me, hey, everybody likes them. Can you bring some down here with a price list? But I didn't do it because I want that patent. You know, I want that patent because as soon as Bass Pro Shop sees this, you know, I got Made in USA on here, and I make them. My brother spins them. I bought a spin casting machine. My brother spins them in Arizona, and my parents and a few of their neighbors put all the O-rings on because I really didn't need another project to do. But I'm like, hey, I'll pay you guys to do all this, and they're like, yeah, we love this. This is great, you know. So we're doing it, you know, right here in the United States. My son, the college graduate, you know, he's like, oh, Dad, this is I can help you with this. This is called outsourcing. See, what we do is we send this to China and we let them make them. And I said, you know what? Not on my watch. What are we? We're not even able to make fishing weights in our country anymore. Are you kidding me? You know, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if I never sell one. Although I've got, oh my gosh, I have at least 1,000 packages of every size sitting there waiting to ship because I'm waiting for that patent. And until it happens, you know, it's like, hey, that's the way it is. I sat on that thing for over 10 years. Because at that point my kids were still young and they were in school, and I knew I had college to pay for, and I had weddings and all that stuff pending. So now my daughter's been married 2 years, so that's why I did this last year. So now, you know, all that stuff's paid for, I'm done with all that, and so now I'm like, hey, I can take on a project like that, you know. Yeah.
Ron, where is your stuff made? Now you said some of it is in Arizona. How about your